Hello, this is Jeff from DocuData. Welcome to this session on imports and description files. This is a fairly advanced topic, but we will try to make it as accessible as possible. We will start out with a general overview of data imports, looking at the various parts of the import process and how imports can be used. Next, I will show you how to install a tool that will make import description files much easier to interpret. Then we will look at the workflow for importing data at the Record Center in more detail. And finally, we will take a quick look at importing through ActiveWeb. Note that more detailed videos are available on each of these topics. Let's get started with our overview. To start, we will need good data in CSV or XLS format. There are a number of steps that we can take to ensure the quality of our data prior to import. Our desired end result is new or updated information in EDC. We accomplish this using an import description file, which tells the system what information to put where and how to process it. To help us to create the most common types of data imports, EDC provides us with a data import wizard. This permits us to easily map our spreadsheet into EDC-RC's language without knowing what keywords to use. However, an import description file is created in the background, and we can save this import description file and manipulate it as we could any other import description file. Throughout this video, you will see import description files where the keywords are colored as illustrated to the left. This can make them easier to interpret. We do this by installing a free tool called Notepad++, which you can download online, and installing a file from DocuData, which will give us what is known as syntax highlighting. If you do anticipate working with import description files, it might be worth installing this yourself. Open your favorite web browser and go to www.download.com. Search for Notepad++ under Windows Software. Scroll down to the search results and download the installation file. Run the installation file, then delete it as it will no longer be necessary. To open Notepad++, double-click on its shortcut, which looks like a chameleon on a notepad. Next, obtain edcimport.xml from DocuData. You can do so by asking us to email it to you, or you can obtain it yourself online as follows. Open www.docudatasoft.com/supportfiles/tools/edc_import.xml. Right-click on the page and select Save As, and save it to your desktop with the default name. Inside Notepad++, click on the User-Defined Dialog button, which looks like lightning over a window, then import the file that you just downloaded. Notice that a new user language called EDC import has been added. If you wish, you may feel free to explore the different tabs to understand the syntax and how it's highlighted a little bit better, but this is completely optional. This syntax highlighting will automatically be applied whenever we open a file with the extension .edc with Notepad++. We see the various groups of keywords that are defined and the color that each keyword will appear in. You can add comments to a description file by adding 2 forward slashes before your comment, and in our description file, with our syntax highlighting applied, these will appear in green. And finally, we can see that we haven't really done very much with the Operators tab. To test this out, I'm going to open this import description file here with the extension .edc, and as expected, our description file opens with the desired highlighting. Now let's take a more detailed look at the workflow for importing data at your Record Center. As with any procedure, your Record Center should have written documentation on any special aspects of how you perform this procedure. If you are at an established Record Center, ask around to see if this document is available. If it is not, please contact DocuData to obtain a copy which you can modify. The general steps are to obtain source data and perform quality control on it, specify the spreadsheet that you wish to import and the table that you wish to import it to, map the columns of the spreadsheet to fields in EDC. If necessary, provide information on how a field is to be interpreted or converted during the import process, specify import validation options, test and run the import, and review the import log to see if anything requires further attention. Our first steps are to obtain data and perform quality control. If your customers capture their own data outside of ActiveWeb, it is a good idea to provide them with a spreadsheet template to get them started. provide them with a supply of unique labels to affix to their boxes, and a cover letter with detailed instructions on what to do with these. You may obtain a template cover letter from DocuData or create your own. A detailed video tutorial on performing quality control on data is available through our website, but here are some of the key points that we should consider. Any column headers in our spreadsheet must appear in the top row. Therefore, before running the import, we would have to delete row number 1 here. We should also delete any blank columns or hidden columns and add column headers to any columns that lack them. Duplicate column names can also cause trouble. The basic rule is the simpler and cleaner your spreadsheet, the better. To filter your columns and look for suspicious data, click here to select the entire spreadsheet. Then click here to apply filters. Clicking on the drop-down at the top of the column, investigate anything that looks like a spelling mistake, as well as blank values in required fields. Also investigate each field that contains values that are to be imported as dates. Note the date format in use and pay attention to anything that stands out. You can also improve the quality of your data as it's being captured by using a tool such as EDC Data Capture. This enables you to increase your accuracy and efficiency by defining data capture jobs, where you define the fields that you wish to capture and also apply processing and validation options. You can access a detailed video tutorial on this subject by navigating through our website, going to the support section and then video tutorials, or by pausing this video and going directly to the address provided on the screen. Now that we have good quality data, if we have an existing import description file for this import, we can simply run the import. Note that import description files contain complete information for our import, including the name and location of the file that we wish to import. If either of these have changed, you can change this here. However, be very careful when modifying import description files, as they can modify a lot of data and there is no undo operation. On the Maintenance tab, open the Box and File Maintenance module, select Import from the File menu, and select the import description file. Note that you do not select the spreadsheet, as the spreadsheet is specified by the import description file. The results of your import are displayed in the import log. Note that if you have done multiple imports, you will need to go to the end of this, as the most recent results are displayed at the end. Note the number of records added, updated, and skipped. Then look into any error messages and warnings that might appear. We will see these in more detail later in this tutorial. If you will not be using a pre-existing import description file, you can create one as follows using the Data Import Wizard. Following along in our detailed step-by-step procedure, we will open the Box and File Maintenance module and use the wizard to specify the table that we want. From the File menu, select Import Data with Wizard. Select the table to be imported to, as well as the spreadsheet type. Select the file containing your source data. Indicate whether your data contains headers, typically true, and in the case of CSV files, what character is used to separate the fields. This is almost always a comma, as well as what is used to delimit text that might contain commas, which is almost always a quotation mark. Relating this to our import description file, here is how the data that we have provided will appear. Next, we will map our data fields. The first column consists of field names. We will see some suggestions on what to do with each field in a couple moments when we take a look at our procedures document. The values column consists of drop-down boxes which enable us to select columns from our spreadsheet. Note that if you wish to update existing data with this import, we must specify a column, as the default values will not update existing values. Default values are useful if we are lacking data in our spreadsheet. If a customer key is specified, this will be used for matching purposes, and if other values are specified, these will be used in the case where the import creates new records. Finally, the Options button permits us to apply formatting and conversion options to data being pulled from the spreadsheet. Your procedure document includes some notes on the most commonly used fields, and this should be customized to your own record center's needs. If you use different fields or different default values, it is a good idea to indicate this here for future reference. The final page of your procedure document has a larger screenshot. Required fields are highlighted in red, commonly used optional fields are highlighted in blue, and the field used for associating alternate barcodes so that you can scan them with EDC is indicated in green. This is most commonly used when you're bringing in boxes from a competitor. Highlighting in column B indicates that this value is most commonly pulled from the spreadsheet, while column C indicates that a required field may be provided as a default value. Highlighting for a field in the final column reminds us to click on the Options button to apply conversion or formatting options. Selecting the customer key column from our spreadsheet and applying it to the customer key field in EDC will lead directly to an entry like this in our import description file. In contrast, default values show up as a single line each, starting with the keyword default EDC field value, followed by the field name and the value enclosed in brackets. The box's number field is one that usually has conversion options applied, padding it on the left to a certain length with the zeros. Applying this using the first line of the conversions dialog results in a conversion line being added to the mapping of our field. Your procedures document has instructions for the two most commonly used options, which are padding numbers to the left with zeros, such as box and file numbers, and specifying the date format to use. A document describing all of the import options is available from Docudata. This includes some options that are not available through the import wizard. The Options button also enables you to specify the date format used in your spreadsheet. When specifying the date format that is used in your spreadsheet, pay attention to the order of the month and the day segments, and also to the separators that are used between them, whether they are hyphens or slashes or some other character. If the month and day segments are specified as digits, use capital MM and DD, which will allow you to accept either zero padded or not zero padded segments. The epoch is a required field that is used to determine the century if a 2-digit year format is provided. Dates earlier than the number specified will be treated as 2000, whereas dates later than the specified number will be treated as being 1900 values. In the status dropdown, we can see a list of different item states that can be imported. Recall that this is a required field for imports because each new item added must have a status, but because this is in the default column, this will not affect existing records. Even if we do import the item status from the spreadsheet, there is an additional safety mechanism in place that we will see in a few moments to prevent you from accidentally changing the status of an item. Once you have completed your mapping, including all required fields, click the Next button to continue. Continuing to follow along with our standard procedure, this will bring us to the Import Options screen. The options that you select will appear in your import description file like this, preceded with an asterisk. Use the corresponding Modify Only option if all of the records in your spreadsheet should match records that already exist in the database. Click here to enable advanced options. This includes the option to allow the changing of the status of an item between, for example, in, out, and pre-add, as well as an option to replace note fields instead of adding to the end of them, which is the default behavior for imports. Click the Next button when you are ready to continue. This brings us to a screen where we can view, modify, test, save, and run our import description file. Examples of things that you can do by modifying an import description file include things such as import tape return dates, import multiple values to the same field, concatenating them together to create a longer string, conversions such as search and replace, and other topics that will be added to this video tutorial later. For more details, see the documentation on working with import description files mentioned earlier in this video. Another thing that we can do with this is copy syntax from here and paste it into our existing import description files. I frequently use this method. Running the test shows you what would happen if you were to import just the first line of data from your spreadsheet. It will show you any error messages, as well as a report of what the data would look like in the record once imported. If the test reveals any errors, you can change them on the current page, or you can click the back button to go back to the mapping portion of the import wizard. Once you are happy with the results of your test import, I strongly recommend saving it. To complete the operation, click on Finish. Note that there is no undo operation, Therefore, you will be required to enter your password as confirmation. On completion, the import log will be displayed. Start by going to the end of the import log to see the number of records added, updated, and skipped. Then take note of any errors and warnings. Tips on troubleshooting errors and warnings will be added to this video in the future. There are many things that we can do with imports and description files. This includes more complex box and file imports, for example, importing information about documents and files to structured note fields, simplified data capture consisting of only a barcode and whatever fields you wish to update, automation of projects and procedures using command line parameters, for example as part of a routine imaging project, management of future tape delivery dates, efficient intake of barcoded records from other facilities, import to other modules, for example for setting up locations and accounts, and setting up your clients with templates so that they can import their own data using ActiveWeb. More topics will be added later. For now, let's finish up by taking a look at importing through ActiveWeb. As a starting point, we require a spreadsheet template and a matching import description file. Open the customer information module, navigate to the correct account, and press Ctrl E to go into edit mode. Click the Import Description Files drop-down to associate the description file to the account. To add a new description file, we would click the Add button and give the description file a unique number, which is very important functionally, as we will see in a moment, and a description which is strictly for our reference. We can access an existing description file by selecting it and clicking the Edit button. And here we see the description file. In addition to setting clients up to do imports online, this can also be a useful way of storing our previously created description files. If an account has associated description files and the user who logs in has the correct access rights, they will see an import button when they log into ActiveWeb. Clicking on this, they will be prompted to select the spreadsheet to import. The spreadsheets that your clients import are based on templates that you provide to them. ActiveWeb matches the correct spreadsheet to the correct import description file by looking for a number in square brackets. The user may modify the remainder of the document name if they wish, but this part must remain intact in order for the import to work. As with imports at the Record Center, there is no easy undo operation, therefore the user must be sure that they actually do want to perform the import before they click yes. Here we see that 5 records were updated and none were added or skipped. Viewing the error log, I see that there are no errors or warnings. I hope that you found this exploration of imports and description files useful. If you have any questions or comments, please provide them to DocuData.